Little Rann of Kutch is a salt marsh located in the western Indian state of Gujarat in India. Far from being known around the world, even most people in India are not aware of its existence. There are no roads in the Rann. To travel here, one has to make one's way through its gigantic mud flats. This salt-bearing wilderness spreads over 5,000 square kilometers and is also known as Survey Number 0 because no land survey has been conducted here since the end of British rule in India. Just 600 kilometers from Mumbai, the commercial capital of India, this land is unknown to most. With its unique geography of vast, desolate landscape, it makes for a very distinct forest without trees. Comprising of thousands of kilometers of barren land, the Little Rann provides a safe haven for a shocking number of local and migratory birds. The endangered wild ass, whose only home now is the Little Rann, and other rare and beautiful creatures. The other living creatures found here in this arid land are the Agariyas or the salt farmers. Surrounded by mounds of tons of white salt crystals, one can easily spot them in the middle of the Rann.
Can you tell us something about the people who work in the salt?
Okay. Gujarat has a 1600 kilometer long sea coastal, and Gujarat was the produce the salt, 70% salt of the Indian continent.
The crew and I stayed with Devji Bhai Damicha at his scuba camp, a quaint and charming collection of mud houses located on the outskirts of the bioreserve. A keen naturalist himself, Devji Bhai has been working to preserve the regional wildlife and to improve the living and working conditions of the salt farmers. In the monsoon, the Arabian Sea invades the Gulf of Kutch, blanketing the muddy flatland under knee-deep water for 4 months, hence making it saline. A set of notifications for the wild ass sanctuary in the Little Rann of Kutch was issued in 1973 under the Gujarat Wild Animals and Wild Birds Protection Act. This is what sowed the seeds of the present conflict in the Rann. It was proposed that the sanctuary would take up an area of 4,840.899 square kilometers. The second notification came in 1978 under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, taking the total area of the sanctuary to 4,953 square kilometers and subsequently covering even more area in the Rann. Ever since the sanctuary was declared a bioreserve, the salt farmers have been asked to vacate their salt pans, as their profession is supposedly a hindrance to the well-being of the sanctuary. Legally speaking, any economic activity inside a bioreserve is also prohibited. The fishermen too have begun facing similar problems. The wild ass has flourished in the Little Rann over the years, say the activists. According to the Gujarat Ecological Education and Research Foundation, the population of the wild ass has been increasing gradually since the 1990s, and a 2010 survey stated there is no human-animal conflict. The salt workers who have lived here for centuries have coexisted peacefully with the wildlife. Salt farmers cannot establish any legal right over the land which is now included in the Wild Ass Sanctuary without any official survey or document. This has proved a threat to their livelihood for nearly 3 decades now. In an endeavour to help the Agariyas, supporting NGOs have dug out a historic farman or ordinance issued by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb from the 17th century, in which the salt pan workers find a mention.
अगरिया परिवार के जो औरतें हैं इनको हमने एक संगठित किया है। करीब 400 परिवार को हमने उसमें उनका एक एसएचजी सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप बनाए और उनको पूरा एक फेडरेट कर दिया है। तो उनका एक फेडरेशन भी है। उनके पास वो सेविंग क्रेडिट का काम करते हैं, बैंक से लोन लेते हैं ताकि वो अपने सॉल्ट के जो काम करते हैं उनके अंदर भी वो लोन ले सकें, ताकि उनके जो बाहर के जो ट्रेडर्स हैं उनके ऊपर उनका जो डिपेंडेंस है वो कम हो जाए। दूसरा, उनके परिवार में जब भी उनको फाइनेंशियली रिक्वायरमेंट चाहिए तो उस एसएचजी से उनका जो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप है उनसे उनको लोन मिल जाए। तीसरा जो है कि अगर मान लो कि सॉल्ट में, क्योंकि जितने अगरिया हैं उसमें से कुछ लोगों के पास ज़मीन भी है, तो अगर उनको खेती बाड़ी भी अच्छी करनी है या और कोई आजीविका के स्रोत ऊपर उनको काम करना है या उनको रोजगारी पैदा करनी है ताकि उनके अंदर से वो पैसा लेके अपना नया रोजगार बना सके। सोलर और ये विंड ऊर्जा के ऊपर हमने काम किया है, तो ये सक्सेस है। अभी अगर इनको ज़्यादा विस्तार किया जाए तो इसके अगरियाओं को काफ़ी फ़ायदा हो सकता है। अभी डीजल का जो खर्च है, डीजल का तो खर्च बचता ही है, उसमें साथ में जो भी कार्बन जो उत्पादन होता है वो भी बच सकता है। ओवरऑल अगरियाओं के मतलब जीवन के लिए, उनके परिवार के लिए ये वैकल्पिक ऊर्जा के स्रोत को अगर ज़्यादा बढ़ावा दिया जाए तो उससे डेफिनेटली मतलब अगरियाओं परिवार को ही सीधा फायदा होने जा रहा है।
For 8 months after the monsoon, the farmers live in the middle of the desert, putting up with the chilly cold of the winter and the crippling heat of the summer. The salt they produce is cultivated salt, which is a painstaking, tiresome process as compared to the other salt-making techniques used around the world today. Why do they continue with this technique? Simply because this is the only method they know. For nearly 600 years, their ancestors have been producing salt in this region. Barring certain patches, the soil in the Little Rann is terribly saline, and the production of most other crops is nearly impossible. The entire Agariya family, after constructing their huts, prepare the fields. They harden the land surface and raise embankments with their bare hands and feet to create about a dozen or so evaporation pans. Simultaneously, they dig a well that is about 80 feet deep in order to extract the saline groundwater into the first of the pans. Often, due to the groundwater in that particular part not being saline enough, the farmers have to dig more than one well. The saline water is transferred from one pan to another via narrow channels until it reaches the final pan where it starts producing salt. The process takes nearly 4 months, and during those 4 months, the farmers frequently scrape the surfaces of the salt pans with very heavy wooden rakes called dhatra to even out the salt and prevent it from forming one hard field of rock-solid salt. The salt water dries up under the harsh sun, transforming the pans into fields of salt. The salt, which is produced by the Agariyas, is locally known as Bada Agara, meaning salt produced from the big pan. Gujarat provides 70% of India's salt, and inland salt from the Little Rann accounts for almost 40% of this. Despite being sold for Rs 3 to 5 or roughly under 10 cents per kilo, the inland salt gets the Agariyas of the Rann just about 12 to 15 paisa or less than 3 cents per kg. This money is no compensation for the hard work they put in for months. It is even less than their production cost in some cases. The chain of middlemen, traders, transporters and retailers grab most of the profits, leaving little or nothing for Agariyas themselves. There is a popular saying in this part of Gujarat: debt is what an Agariya never fails to bring back home. The pump remains the main cause of the heavy debt of the farmers, a small machine that reduces the savings of the salt farmers from a possible 60,000 rupees or over $1,000 to a wretched 10,000 rupees or $200 a year. The pump requires diesel to run it, which costs the Agariyas most of their profit margin. Even among the salt farmers, there lies a hierarchy. The salt farmers, whose salt pans are closer to their villages, are able to meet their families after a hard day's work. Their working conditions are severe, but having the liberty to come back home to their families definitely works in their favor. All the villages have easily accessible schools to which most Agariya children go. In short, there is still scope for the children to have a different future. As one goes deeper into the nothingness that is the Rann, one sees a gradual change in the economic condition of the Agariyas. The Agariyas, whose salt pans are deeper in the Rann, cannot commute for 20 to 30 kilometers every day. Thus, after the monsoon, around 5,000 Agariyas from 109 villages bordering the Rann pack their belongings and move to the desert with their families for 8 months. They have no other choice but to build a temporary home for themselves within the Rann. This home gets destroyed in the monsoon, so they have to build a new one each year. When asked about the conditions he works in, a farmer smiled and said, "At least we can layer ourselves in the winter to fend off the cold." The summer, however, is when it gets really horrid. And horrid it is indeed. They work in temperatures ranging from 45 to 50 degrees Celsius or around 120 degrees Fahrenheit. When tired, the only shade they have is their temporary home, which is usually a relatively long walk from their salt pan.
गर्मी होती है तो भी वो वहाँ रहते हैं सब। इतनी कटने में वो नमक पकाते हैं, तो नमक का तो कोई भाव है नहीं उसके पास। दर साल ऐसा जो होता है, कई बार हमारे वहाँ नुकसान हुआ पर कुछ कोई गवर्नमेंट देती है नहीं है। वो बोलती है कि तुम्हारा यहाँ तुम्हारे पास ये रण है ना, रण में तुम्हारे पास इसका अकदावर नहीं है, जमीन लीज नहीं है, तुम ऐसी तरह रहते हो इसीलिए तुमको वहाँ नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट में जिसके पास लीज होता है तो उसको मिलता है। तो हमारा लीज उसने बंद कर दिया है, गवर्नमेंट ने।
There are a large number of safety hazards involved in the production of salt in this sort of climate, but the government has taken very few precautions to ensure the safety and well-being of the farmers. Only recently were they given boots to prevent damage to their feet, but that was done because of the efforts of the NGOs who reached out and collaborated with the government. These are just the climatic problems that the farmers face. Once they deal with these, they have to deal with the merchants who issue them their salaries. They are exploited for reasons they have no control over. The occasional sandstorm ruins the quality of the salt and subsequently reduces the chances of them being paid a full amount. The salt pan getting ruined is just one result of an unexpected shower. The farmers also get stranded in the run, as no vehicles run in the wet marsh. Sometimes they have to wait for a few days before receiving any help. The economic difference between the village salt farmers and the ones who live in the desert can be seen in something as simple as the way they drink tea. The desert farmers don't have access to milk and have to drink their tea black. On our 5th day in the run, we went to a desert school in the Kharaghoda district. The school is nothing more than a single concrete room literally in the middle of nowhere. In the distance, one can see the salt pans and the temporary homes of the salt farmers. We reached at 10 a.m. and all was quiet. By 11 a.m., the school children began appearing like tiny dots on the horizon. They arrived either on foot or on bicycles. The bland yellowness of the run suddenly began to look colorful as the children approached. They grew closer, walking briskly and importantly, just as most of us did when we were kids. These kids were smiling while walking on the dried hard land, which is a typical Agariya quality. Those who were walking were in groups of 2 or 3, all bearing a tiny bag of books and completely immersed in high-pitched banter. They reached the school before the teacher arrived and immediately started playing. One girl began sweeping the floor of the school. These children display a maturity that I hadn't seen in any of the other children we had met. Honestly, I haven't seen this kind of maturity in children anywhere. They are so aware and so blissfully unaware, all at the same time. They were all so incredibly happy. In fact, their parents seemed just as happy. Learning to be content in this wilderness is an art that these people seem to have mastered.
मेरा नाम वीर सिंह है। मैं करीब 5 साल से ये स्कूल चला रहा हूँ। ये हमारे स्कूल का नाम दीपक प्राथमिक शाला है, जो अगरिया 8 महीने से यहाँ रन में आते हैं और वो रन में आते हैं तो उनके बच्चे को उसका अभ्यासक्रम टूट जाता है। तो उन्होंने सोचा कि क्यों ना हम यहाँ रन में स्कूल बनाए। तो 5-6 स्कूल चलती है और जिसमें 500 जितने लड़के पढ़ने आते हैं और उनका भविष्य पहले से अभी अच्छा हो रहा है। पहले यहाँ पर कोई बच्चे या कोई अगर ये पढ़े लिखे नहीं थे। कुछ तो नहीं है, ये ठंडी में और गर्मी में रहना, कड़ी धूप में या काम करना कुछ तो नहीं है, पर और कोई धंधा इनको आता नहीं, इसलिए ये काम करना पड़ता है। यहाँ सब बच्चे के मम्मी पापा तो चाहते ही है कि हमारा लड़का बड़े होके यहाँ से ये मिट्टी के रण में से बाहर निकले और कोई और काम करे।
मेरा नाम चेतन भाई जगा भाई काकड़िया।
मेरा नाम भरत भाई सौजी भाई सेचा। मेरा नाम दक्षा। मेरा नाम पायल।
मारो नाम बेचा भाई भरत भाई।
मारा नाम विक्रम भाई देसल भाई माडविया।
मारो नाम हिनाबेन जगा भाई काकड़िया।
मारा नाम राहुल।
बड़े होकर पुलिस बनना।
डॉक्टर,
पुलिस,
टीचर, पुलिस, पुलिस।
Happiness is subjective and its theory differs with each person. The Agariyas not just deal with the situation they are in, but they make the most out of it. Living in a harsh, merciless land, they not only survive for months, but also learn to work with composure and dignity in extremely difficult conditions. They literally draw their livelihood from the barren land, which is tough even for mere survival. After seeing the Agariyas and the conditions they live in, the crew and I deduced that we would not last longer than a week in the run. The Agariyas are a symbol of human resilience and an intrinsic part of the run.